In Brazil, the death toll resulting from heavy rains and landslides in Petrópolis rose to 123. In Nicaragua, President Daniel Ortega met this Thursday with the Vice Prime Minister of Russia, Yuri Borisov, to strengthen ties of cooperation. The first buses carrying refugees from Donbass began arriving in the Rostov region in southeast Russia. The accommodations are set to receive 10,000 refugees. Hi, this is From the South. I am your news anchor, Dio Martin, from the teleSUR studios in Havana. We begin with the news. In Brazil, the death toll after the floods sparked by heavy rains in the city of Petrópolis rose to 123. The Brazilian Civil Defense reported that so far there are 123 casualties, while 24 people were rescued alive, 849 were left homeless, and 218 are still missing. However, rescue teams are still working in the area and warned that the hopes of finding survivors are low. Authorities informed that during Thursday night it rained again and the situation could worsen. On that note, the responders asked the regional government to extend the public emergency decree on account of the risk of new landslides. 4 days after the tragedy, President Jair Bolsonaro flew over Petrópolis after returning from his tour in Europe. Last year, the president cut 75% of the budget for the prevention of disasters such as this one caused by downpours. In the Alto da Serra.
Serra neighborhood, we can find Morro da Oficina, the most affected place by the storm that hit the city of Petrópolis on Tuesday, the worst in 90 years. The house of Suelen's parents was one of the 80 destroyed. Dozens of people were killed or are still missing.
My parents lived there, my cousins. I even have cousins who are still buried and have not been found, and my parents survived and are here with me.
Teams from different cities in the region, the military, fire brigades and civil defense are mobilized in the search. There are also many volunteers who tell us about the difficulties encountered. Most of the people who are working do not have gloves. There are no procedures gloves in the city. The firemen have them, but volunteers do not have this kind of material. Natalia Lucinda, her husband and 2 daughters are among the hundreds of homeless. They were saved but lost relatives and neighbors who asked her if there is anyone responsible for this situation.
The rulers who do not nothing for us. Every year is the same thing. Every year. They promise, but they don't deliver. I am one of those who heard that they were going to rebuild a retaining wall. I have lived here for 25 years and they never did anything.
Augusto lives in one of the 234 risk points mapped by the municipality in 2017. 18% of the houses in Petrópolis are in areas with a high or very high possibility of landslides. The study recommended the resettlement of more than 7,000 families, revealing why they are still live at risk. Due to government's lack of interest to provide housing for the population, the whole of Petrópolis is a risk area. Rosa Alice was looking for clothes among the donations coming in from all over the country. She also had to leave her home quickly when on February 15 it rained in 3 hours what was expected for the whole month.
If we are not allowed to return, we have nowhere to go, so we will be dependent on the public power. We have nowhere to go. I am in my niece's house, but we can stay here forever. We have nowhere to go. Me, my daughter, and 29 other people who are there have nowhere to go.
President Jair Bolsonaro cut 75% of the money for flood prevention in 2021. His ally, the governor of Rio de Janeiro, Claudio Castro, spent less than half the money to prevent these tragedies last year. We asked the mayor of Petrópolis, who is in his 4th term of office, why people continue to live in risky areas. He first told us that it was a natural disaster and talked about a national housing inequality. We insisted, and this is how he answered us. I already made it clear that this is a problem that did not start now. It is a historical problem. I think that you also do not know the history of Morro da Oficina. And so to make this debate with you without you knowing the reality of the people here is difficult. Thank you. Late Thursday afternoon, heavy rain flooded streets, caused new landslides, and suspended searches. Further rains are forecast for Friday and Saturday.
André Vieira e Sebastião Soto, teleSUR, Brasil.
The government of Venezuela expressed its support to the people of Brazil concerning the disaster prompted by the rains in the city of Petropolis. On his Twitter account, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro expressed his solidarity to the people of Brazil regarding the crisis caused by the rains in the city of Petropolis. With reports over 120 deaths and dozens missing, Maduro reminded the need to create a cooperation mechanism among South American nations in case of natural disasters that will allow coordinated joint actions to address these weather events. President Maduro also said the Venezuelan government is at the full disposal of the local, state, and federal authorities of Brazil to deal with such a difficult situation. We're going to take a short break now. Please join us again after this. Welcome back to From the South. Venezuela's Defense Minister Vladimir Lopez held a telephone conversation with his Argentine counterpart Jorge Tayana concerning an exchange of information on the invasion plan designed by the government of former President Mauricio Macri. Several media reported that Vladimir Lopez welcomed the start of the internal investigation into the Puma operation. These maneuvers began after President Nicolas Maduro ordered investigations to be carried out regarding the invasion plan. The inquiry also had the unanimous vote of the National Assembly. Minister Tayana declared he was not surprised by the interventionist measures against the country because Macri was an active member of the Lima Group. Venezuelan Defense Minister Vladimir Padrino Lopez, after holding a dialogue with his Argentine counterpart, welcomed the request to investigate the interventionist military operation that the government of former President Mauricio Macri was allegedly carrying out against Venezuelan territory.
From the outset, the minister rejects any interference in the sovereignty of the peoples, in their self-determination. In particularly, I thanked him for the request of our Commander-in-Chief Maduro to initiate an investigation. I thank him for initiating this investigation there in Argentina. I expressed my bewilderment if that were true, because it is not peculiar in any school of arms, nor in any Latin American armed force, to carry out exercises with overseas proportions, and much less with offensive proportions of aggression, of invasion against other peoples, against states in Latin America.
The Venezuelan military chief warned that behind these maneuvers of military operations are imperialist powers that seek to act against sister nations.
I told the minister to carry out a serious investigation. I'm sure that this will be the case, given the position of the Minister of Defense to move forward on this. Let it be clear, not only for Venezuela, that this is a very delicate matter. We know that behind these curtains are acting imperial powers that are imposing themselves on right-wing movements and factors of the continent that led themselves to this servility, to be implementing instructions of this nature against peoples, against our own brothers. I reject this as a soldier.
In his closing statements, Vladimir Padrino recalled the military operation in 2019 aimed at destabilizing the country and fostering conditions to carry out a coup against the national government.
All the conditions for destabilization were in place. The bet was that 2019 would disrupt Venezuelan democracy and its institutions, that a coup would be carried out against the people of Venezuela and also against the government of the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela.
In Nicaragua, President Daniel Ortega met this Thursday with the Vice Prime Minister of Russia, Yuri Borisov, to strengthen ties of cooperation and friendship. This meeting is part of the agenda developed by the Russian high official as part of his ministerial tour through Latin America and Caribbean countries. The meeting, held in the capital city of Managua, is part of the agenda they are carrying out almost a month after Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov declared the strengthening of strategic cooperation with Venezuela, Nicaragua, and Cuba in the areas of economy, culture, education, and military technical defense. Meanwhile, Nicaraguan President Daniel Ortega announced the fulfillment of the agenda of the Intergovernmental Commission as a fight for peace and cooperation among peoples. On his behalf, Russian Deputy Prime Minister Yuri Borisov stressed that trade with Nicaragua has increased in a sustainable manner over the past year.
Last year, the exchange of goods between our countries has grown 3 times. It exceeded 160 million. This will not be the limit. We have seen and analyzed that we are in conditions to multiply several times this amount of exchange between our countries. We will continue working in this, and that is our commitment.
Chile's Constitutional Convention approved the first articles that will be part of the draft of the country's new Magna Carta. The body discussed 14 articles corresponding to the justice system section. 5 were approved entirely, while the other 5 have to return to the Commission in charge of the judicial area to be revised. The proposals that were endorsed in full include the articles on parity and gender perspective, free of charge, and collaborative mechanisms for conflict resolution. The Chilean constituents have until July 4th to finalize the draft of the Magna Carta. The initiative must be approved in the plebiscite scheduled for the second half of 2022. The Haitian Senate denounced police repression of textile workers demanding wage increases. Thousands of textile workers were injured by the repressive actions of security forces in an attempt to stop protests that have been going on for more than 3 weeks. After the violence, the President of the Senate, Joseph Lambert, sent a letter to the Director of Police, Franz Salve, where he questioned the use of tear gas to disperse the workers who are demanding a better income to cope with the high prices of products. In this regard, the government promised to publish a decree with wage adjustments while calling on the textile sector to keep calm. This Friday, in a briefing session, the Security Council of the United Nations organization will address the problems in Haiti and the challenges faced by the Integrated Office of the Multilateral Organization in the Caribbean island. The purpose of the meeting is to review the main political, economic, humanitarian, and security developments in the nation. Likewise, the Deputy Secretary General of the organization, Amina Mohamed, called on the international community to support the Haitian people, particularly in the southern part of the country hit by a 7.2 magnitude earthquake last August. Local authorities estimate that at least $2 billion are needed to boost the region and help the most vulnerable population. We have more news coming up after a final short break. Please stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The first buses carrying refugees from Donbass begin arriving in the Rostov region in southeast Russia. The accommodations are set to receive 10,000 refugees, according to reports from the TASS agency. The chief of the self-proclaimed Lugansk People's Republic, Denis Pushilin, issued an order of evacuation for children, women, and the elderly, given the recent ceasefire violations and explosions recorded in the Donbass region only on Wednesday, which amount to over 800 combined, according to the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe. The estimated number of refugees is said to rise up to 700,000 in total. Russian President Vladimir Putin already ordered the Deputy Minister of Emergencies, Alexander Chupryan, to fly urgently to Rostov to finalize the setting up of the accommodations for the refugees who flee a potential invasion from the Ukrainian government forces. The authorities of Lugansk People's Republic denounced the arrival of special operations groups of the armed forces of Ukraine in the demarcation zone of Donbass. According to intelligence sources in Lugansk, the Ukrainian troops would be reconquering the terrain where they would allegedly seek to break through the defenses of the entity and Donetsk militias. Amidst the shelling initiated by Kiev on the so-called contact line, Western authorities and media insist on blaming Russia for maintaining alleged intentions to invade Ukraine. Meanwhile, authorities in Lugansk and Donetsk are issuing warnings of a possible large-scale attack by Kiev. Let's stay in Donetsk as events unfold. At 7 p.m. local time, a car exploded in the parking lot near the government house building. The vehicle belonged to the chief of the DPR People's Militia, Denis Sinenkov. Local authorities confirmed Sinenkov was not injured. The shockwave was heard throughout the city. The Ministry of Emergency Situations responded to the scene of the explosion. Authorities asked the public to remain calm, to be vigilant, and also to avoid moving around the city. China pledged to continue to provide support and assistance to Nepal's economic and social development within its capacity, said Wang Wenbin, spokesman of the Chinese Foreign Ministry, on Friday, adding that it opposes any forms of coercion
between the international community and Nepal to contribute to Nepal's economic growth and improvement of people's livelihoods. However, the will of the Nepalese people should be fully respected and no political conditions should be attached. We oppose coercive diplomacy and harming Nepal's sovereignty and interests for someone's own purposes. As a friendly neighbor and development partner of Nepal, China will, as always, support the Nepalese people in their independent choice of development path. Support the Nepalese side in making the right choice that conforms to national interests and reflects the will of the Nepalese people, and continue to provide support and assistance in Nepal's economic and social development within our capacity.
The World Health Organization said on Friday 6 African countries have been chosen to establish their own mRNA vaccine production, with the continent largely shut out of access to COVID jabs. Egypt, Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, South Africa, and Tunisia were selected as the first recipients of technology from the WHO's global mRNA vaccine hub in a push to ensure Africa can make its own jabs to fight the COVID and other diseases. World Health Organization Chief Tedros Ghebreyesus stated that no other event like the COVID-19 pandemic has shown that reliance on a few companies to supply global public goods is limiting and dangerous. He also emphasized the best way to address health emergencies and reach universal health coverage is to significantly increase the capacity of all regions to manufacture the health products they need. In the Dominican Republic, the vaccination process against COVID-19 for children began this week. Daisy Tuizan shares the details with us.
In the Dominican Republic, the vaccination campaign for children from 5 to 11 years began on Monday. All throughout the 122 educational districts and the 18 regionals of the Ministry of Education. The vaccination plan has been growing gradually. We ask all the parents to grow awareness and to come and get their children vaccinated. Trust the vaccine so that we can end this pandemic. We're using Sinovac, 2 doses, one now and the second shot after 28 days. Immunization in the underage population is conducted with 0.5 milligrams of the Chinese-made Sinovac. The process is voluntary and depends on the authorization of the parents or legal guardians. My son is already 12 years old and he already got his shots. He's not here, he's in the United States. So if in other countries rules are being strictly followed, then why can't it be the same here? No one has died from following these rules. Throughout the campaign, which will last for 6 months, 1,236,644 children, always granted that parents or legal guardians express their consent. Statistics show over 28,000 infants have been vaccinated.
Because that way there are less infections and the kids are very vulnerable. It's great that they get vaccinated.
Some people disagree with the immunization process against the virus.
That's an instrument the government is using to reduce the population, and I don't buy any of it. No, sir. People ought to place themselves in the hands of our Lord and Savior, Jesus H. Christ, and seek the Lord Almighty's help, because He's the only one that saves and heals, and His name is the Jesus. No government or vaccines gonna stop people from dying.
But putting aside the debate, the President surprised the country by eliminating restrictive measures against COVID-19 on the one-year celebration of the National Vaccination Plan.
I stand before you to tell you that from today on, all restrictive measures against COVID-19, like the use of face masks, are suspended. You no longer have to present a vaccination card to access certain places, and all restrictions pertinent to COVID-19 are lifted from public spaces. Today, it's time for everyone to take on their share of responsibility, each and every one of us, as individuals.
However, according to the World Health Organization, the suspension of these measures in several countries is not equivalent to the ending of the disease. In the Dominican Republic, care has been left to each and everyone's free will and whim.
Para TeleSUR, Daisy Tuizan, República Dominicana.
We've come to the end of this news brief. Remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at teleSUR English. You can also join us on social media for all the latest news. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Dio Martin. Thanks for watching.